male and the dominant female excite pleasure zones. It's just one of those psychological things. You don't have to. You can train yourselves away from it, but even then, the urge is still there. You can't deny the very things which makes us human.
Yeah, well, it's that whole embarrassment, openness, all of that. It's not just that your body's naked, but you feel mentally as naked as I suppose as you can, because these are the things that make your body work, innit? You know, the processes, like going, you know, you eat. People will sit. Right, check this. I saw Star Trek once, and in this Star Trek there was this alien race, and they took them to dinner, and then the next thing they were storming off. They were so offended, and they couldn't work out what they'd done. And it turned out that it was because they was eating in front of this alien race, and as far as they was concerned, it was a private thing. That's something you do privately. You don't eat in front of other people. You know, you're putting the food. You're actually showing me the process. It's like on the reverse end. Nobody wants to sit and have a poo party, do they? You know, but they'll have a dinner party.
Some people have a poo party.
So from that point of view, that is something that we can share. But the opposite, the end of the process, nobody wants to share.
In Roman, which we're still in, they had communal toilets. It was a good place to talk business.
Yeah, and certainly attitudes were different. Attitudes had to be different. But yeah, get back to what I was saying, because I want to make that point, right? So you were saying that porn is like a steam valve, yeah?
Actually, it's more than that. It was a very glib and quick statement.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you believe that, but you were just using that framework of reference to discuss that situation. And then I said, right, yeah, because it's one that's been put there, right, in place and encouraged by the social conditions, the social brainwash, and that is partly to do with the fact that men and women don't get along. Now, I actually said it blunter than that. Okay, but having a rethink, I don't want to say things, you know, and have people think, oh, he's got some problem here. I don't have actually a problem with anybody. It's just my analysis. You know, if people think I'm wrong, they're entitled to that opinion as well. But there is a truth in there somewhere, and if we're going to find the truth, we have to be able to discuss it in a liberal way. And I don't like using the word liberal these days either, because that has all sorts of ideas associated.
Just quickly, do you think that one of the reasons that men and women don't get along, which we have to qualify again, because we can't just take something for granted because in a certain few personal cases we don't get along.
Exactly.
But do you think that might be because the agenda of a woman is different from the agenda of a man in a lot of cases?
Well, I will say this: it's certainly changed over the ages. Well, I mean, history teaches us things.
Are the same.
Let's start. You know, if you're looking at today, you have to realise how we got to today. Choices have been made. Every time a choice is made, it creates a series of effects. You know, causality. There's no escaping responsibility that goes with making every single choice we've made. So when the choice was made or encouraged that people should go along a certain path, because, you know, back in the beginning, what would you call a typical family back, say, in the Stone Age? You know, primitive, as far back as man can go. Then what was that relationship? And then what was the relationship?
It would have been communal.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point.
Everyone's humping everyone.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got an alpha male.
Yeah. Though I don't know anybody who has actual proof of that. It's all supposition to say, well, look at the evidence, we're here.
Basically, to look back in history, you look at different societies and cultures. You've got the Papua New Guinea, which before, like only a few years ago, hadn't seen white man. Mm-hmm. And you've got like the South African Bushmen, and you've got the Australian peoples.
Okay, stop there. That's three different peoples. Now, between those three people, do they have similar family backgrounds,
You have wives.
similar structures or hierarchies. Is there a hierarchy? Or is it just, everyone's equal? I mean, this idea of equality, I hear people say, we're all equal. Well, if we're all equal, have we all got 10 billion in the bank? And have we all got a Ferrari? And, that's what equal means. Because I think people misinterpret words like equal for, what would be justice. And again, I don't even think they know what that means. I just think that they actually want everybody to have the same. But then if everybody has the same, I've had this discussion years ago. If everybody was the same, all the resources shared equally and had the same money, everything, by tomorrow they'd be rich and poor. Just because you've got some people who'll do something with their thing and make more. And then others that don't, or others that just want easy access to something, so they'll give a portion of theirs away, so now they've got less, and the person that they gave it to has more. And it's simply through not wanting to take responsibility, I suppose, for the set of actions required, like doing a job, day's work. Oh, I don't want a day's work today, I want to drink tea in the sunshade. So, the person that's serving you, won't do that for free, because we don't accept a slavery society. Externally, maybe what goes on behind the scenes in all this shadow business, that's another thing, but externally we are trying to project a world where, well, no, they're not our slaves, but we can pay for that service. And then when you look at those two side by side, you've got slavery and you've got service or servitude, right? Going back into those families now, the Papua New Guinea, the African and say the Malaysian family or whatever, is that a society of servitude? Did I have servitude in that, or slavery?
Generally not. Most people are productive members of society, and it's a kind of like small family group and interconnected families.
Let's take a case in point. Say,
most of them are the travelling groups as well. They're not sedentary so much as they travel around for resources.
Okay, so they're not fixed to a particular spot. Therefore, I suppose the greatest advantage we have is our ability.
But when you move, you come in contact with other groups, and you've got to have social relations which allow for that.
Otherwise, it'd be just war and destruction everywhere you go.
Yeah, you've got agreed rules of war, if nothing else.
I think, as a general rule of survival, I mean, this is something you can even pick up in The Walking Dead. Those that try to create the normal biases of a free society, peace, loving, are the ones that do best. The ones that survive the longest. The ones that revert to the animalistic tendencies, trust nobody. I'll say it the blunt way now so that I can kind of reference this. Yeah. Porn, it serves the need, you're basically saying, because it's the steam valve. If that steam valve wasn't there, society would explode. Hold on, let me finish the train of thought, and then you can say if I'm right or wrong. It's the steam valve, otherwise society would explode. And we're talking about mainly men, because you're talking from a man's point of view. We'd have to ask a woman, but I'm going to assume that since it takes two of us to biochemically make that mix, women would feel the same to a greater or lesser degree, and it's from their point of view. Right, so here's the steam valve. But what's that in lieu of, in replacement of? Actual sex with your own partner.
Right.
And when you look at that, what does that entail? Because you see, it's just like violence. We've got detachment from violence because we can watch violence and you feel no pain. It's like talking about doing a wrong and you feel no pain. It's an imaginary thing. Yet we've given it form and substance to the point where this picture now tells 1,000 words. You see a violent scene and that's in your head. And just as we know, children themselves, if children was to grow up in because they might not feel the violence, but if they're in a violent home, that's going to have some kind of effect on their life, on the way they think. So television is that even when adults think that they're fully grown up and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? So, same with sex, I think. It's there. Yeah, it's esteemed. But I'm not saying, people are evil for doing it, because it's one of those things that's manipulated in society. But here's the reason I think it's manipulated and why it even exists in the first place. You see, going back to the myths, and I like the way the myths that Joseph Campbell explained this. See, in those traditional New Guinea places that you're talking, those traditional families that are not basing their ideals on a bias given to them by others. It's almost like, this is natural, this is how it has to be, otherwise there is no life, because you die of starvation if everyone doesn't chip in. Goodbye, Jack. So that is a natural thing created out of the situation. But when you analyze it, it's because people have realized, well, I have a responsibility. If I don't do A, B, and C, then D and E and F and G and all the rest that make life up, make the alphabet of life, won't happen. And men and women individually have to sit down, because we've got our own mind, our own brain, and make that decision. What am I, and what am I here to do? And part of that is family, because that's what you've learned. That's the way you've learned. Now, because family has been fractured so much in the West, progressively, slowly incorporating with it's like the technology takes away the idea, takes away true knowledge, true natural knowledge, and replaces it with artificial knowledge that in some ways controlled by the other. You're not in full control. It's a useful tool to you, but if you was in full control, you could take it apart, you could reassemble it, you could do whatever you want with it. So people having lost those skills, those social skills over time, losing the face-to-face interaction, the job sharing, and the reduction of a man's wages relative to what he earned in the past to what he earns today, and what that could have done for him. In the past, that money would have taken care of him, himself, his family, his children, his grandparents, or whoever, if he's got any. And all right, maybe that's a load of bullshit, but that's the idea of why he got paid his wages. And if he couldn't do that, who'd go to work? But here we are in today's day and age, where men and women actually share that responsibility, and that's been brought about because women want it equal. Yeah, but here's the problem: women want it equal, and they also want the myth. The myth being the man being the provider. Yeah. And so a lot of women that cohabit, they'll come to their men and they'll say, "Oh, you must give me A, B, and C from your money." But here's the thing, right? If it's not equal fully right down the line, I mean, there's a lot of people that have relationships, but they can't live together just because the place is too small, or whatever reason, or just the way the government's had it running. Yeah, especially people on benefits. There was a penalty. If people came together, they got less money. So what makes sense to you? Do you want less money, or do you want more money? You want more money because you can do more things. That's common sense. That's just basic everyday sense. Stupid people have got that kind of sense. Right? So you got more money, get more stuff, but you have to identify with being separate. And in being separate, you don't get the full value of the responsibility, the cohabiting, the people getting on your nerves, being close quarters, and learning the tools and the techniques of psychologically dealing with those people, which is a responsibility. So people don't want that responsibility. They want free and easy sex with no strings attached, no babies attached, no anything.